All right. Welcome to another Real Monsters podcast. I am your host, SK Barrett, the man with the voice for writing.
Oh, that's a
And
new one.
yeah, I thought I'd try that out. And my co host, Wess Haubrich.
I am the one with the face for writing.
Man, do
uh,
we have a show tonight? This guy, man.
Arguably one of the not psychotic sick motherfuckers, but morally sick people that we've ever looked at.
Definitely one of the, uh, yeah. It's the kind of guy where you try to say something, and you just kind of at a loss because of just the hideous and uh, unremorseful, relentless debauchery and vileness of his acts.
Oh, absolutely. And that's one thing. Yeah, we should give you that disclaimer.
Oh, I lost you.
Can you hear me?
Now you're back.
Okay.
Give
All
the
right. I
start with the
am audible.
disclaimer. Start with the disclaimer again.
Yes, we would definitely issue that disclaimer now. We're going to be talking about stuff that is, I think, in many ways, even sicker than the Sylvia Likens case that
Oh
we
yeah,
covered in the last episode.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. This guy was brutal on a whole nother level.
we're going to be talking about debauchery on children and debauchery on animals, which are two definite triggers for people. Before we get to some of the sicker stuff as we get further into the program, I might throw in the disclaimer just as a reminder too.
Yeah, good idea.
So
But first, we have a brand new segment we're going to try out today. Dun dun
we
dun.
do.
This
I
week
hit
in crime history.
dun, 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 start the news reel. And every week with this, what we thought we would do is pull out some of the more notable um, happenings of crime, and the definition there isn't just crimes against individual people. I have war crimes in here,
Hmm.
I have assassinations and terrorism as well.
All
So
right, let's get to it. What do you got
we
on the
will
list?
we will be going back 1 week, May 24th. Um, oh, and Kelly is in the chat. Kelly,
Yeah,
we're going to be looking at some ancient stuff, and if you have anything interesting about any of these, feel free to throw it in.
yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
First one we have May 24th, 1567, Eric XIV of Sweden and his guards murder 5 incarcerated Swedish nobles. Um,
When was
in
this? 14 what?
15,
15,
1567.
1567. Oh, that Eric. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. ERIK, exactly. Um, May 24th, 1856, John Brown and his men kill 5 slavery supporters at Pottawatomie Creek, Kansas. Which Kansas has a really interesting history, bleeding Kansas before the Civil War when it was just a territory. And Brown is
It,
considered a hero by many, but it was still considered a crime at the
yeah,
time.
his, as I understand it, his techniques did not endear him to many people.
Yeah, Confederates or Union.
Yeah,
The,
he pissed off
so,
people on both sides, so he was an equal opportunity asshole.
yeah, an equal opportunity crazy religious preacher who thought God's personal mission to him was to use violence to stop slavery. So,
Yeah,
um,
which is
and
wrong because that right belongs to the government.
agreed.
I kind of I kind of joke about it, but it's really true. The government does not. The government wants a monopoly on violence.
They do. That is kind of the definition of government,
Right,
the monopoly on legal violence.
right.
Um, Getting into the next one, it is actually the birthday of the man that we are going to be delving into greater detail about later, Peter Kürten, the German
Ooh,
serial killer.
it was his birthday?
Oh, wait, I'm sorry. That is a couple of days from now.
Oh, it's
Um,
coming up.
yeah. In 1930, Vampire of Dusseldorf, Peter Kürten has his wife turn him in.
Oh, it's his incarceration
Anniversary of
his
that.
his
Yeah.
incarceration date.
May 24th, 1930.
That's one of the reasons why we're talking about him this week, is because of that anniversary.
Yep, and we do have the birthday anniversary on another day as we get further along here. Let's see. 1940, acting on orders of Stalin, the NKVD, which was the predecessor of
The
the
KGB.
the KGB, exactly, Agent Yosif Grigorovich orchestrates a failed assassination attempt on Russian revolutionary Leon Trotsky in Coyoacan, Mexico.
A an endeavor that would later succeed, but this one did
Yeah,
not.
yeah, yeah. Stalin and Trotsky were pretty much dyed-in-the-wool enemies, getting along in the history of the USSR.
Yeah.
But
I
uh,
understand. I understand that the common perception is that Trotsky was killed with an ice pick, but it was an ice axe. I understand.
oh, uh-huh. Yeah, I didn't know that part of it.
Yeah,
But
or something like that. It's the commonly understood murder weapon is off somehow.
very interesting. But from 1940, we jump 52 years to 1992. May 24th, the ethnic cleansing in Bosnia and Herzegovina begins when Serbian militias and police enter the town of Hazarak, I think is how you say that.
Hmm.
Um, let's see, 1993, May 24th, Catholic Cardinal Juan Ocampo and 6 others killed in a shootout at the Guadalajara airport between the federales and drug dealers.
A cardinal?
A Catholic cardinal, Juan Ocampo.
Okay, because when you started reading that, it sounded like the cardinal was, one of the sides in the
Oh,
shootout.
yeah.
I
Yep.
mean, cardinals have not been involved in criminal um, shootouts, so to speak, since the Three Musketeers days.
Nope. Exactly. Wow. Um, let's see. 1994, May 24th, the four 1993 World Trade Center bombers are each sentenced to 240 years in prison, a pop.
What?
Yep.
Man, I hope they don't get out.
Yeah. Yeah, I hope not.
Some of those
Skipping.
some of those giant
Mhm.
sentences get later overturned or reduced, don't they, do they not?
I would think so, but I don't know if that would happen to people accused of that kind of crime.
Right.
But yeah, definitely. Um, 1999, May 24th, the International War Crimes Tribunal at The Hague indicts Slobodan Milosevic,
Oh, yeah. I remember that.
the leader of those war crimes and ethnic cleansing in Serbia.
Serbia. Yeah.
2014, May 24th, three are killed in a shooting at the Brussels Jewish Museum of Belgium.
Hmm.
Moving on to May 25th, 1521, the Edict of Worms declares Martin Luther a outlaw.
What? The Edict of what?
The, e-
Worms?
the Edict of Worms.
That's just sounds weird.
Yeah, I think it was a city, wasn't it?
Oh, maybe that makes more sense then.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Let's see. Uh, 1895. Oscar Wilde is sentenced to 2 years in prison for gross indecency.
Damn it.
Yeah, that's a sad one. I mean, jailed
Yeah,
for being a homosexual, basically.
right.
Um,
The same
19.
the same kind of thing that led to the suicide of Turing
Yep.
about
Sad.
about 60-ish years later.
One of the world's most brilliant minds and one of the world's most brilliant writers.
Yep.
Um, let's see. May 25th, 1925, the Scopes monkey trial begins. John T. Scopes is indicted in Tennessee for teaching Darwin's theory of evolution, which goes against the state law they had at the time. And the interesting thing there was that was basically a show trial to get that law overturned. And
Eh,
people might know it from Inherit the Wind,
right.
based on the Scopes trial. Great
And
movie.
and his did they win that trial?
They did not, but I
But
do believe they won getting that law overturned, which was essentially their goal. So, if I'm not mistaken, Scopes actually volunteered to be that test for them. So he
yeah, yeah.
volunteered to be indicted. Let's see. I'm skipping over some of these that are less interesting. 1943, race riots at the Mobile, Alabama shipyards for upgrading black workers.
43?
Yep.
There were
I don't
race
think
riots in the
anyone.
middle of the war?
Yeah.
I
Oh,
didn't know that.
Mobile, Alabama.
Yeah.
So that might explain part of it. But yeah, I don't think anybody was killed in that particular riot, though. Um, 1971, May 25th, the Provisional Irish Republican Army bombs the British Army base in Belfast, killing 1 and wounding 7.
Fucking IRA, man.
Yeah, there was a few entries for them, but
I bet.
May 25th, 1978, the first bomb in the Unabomber series detonates at Northwestern with only minor injuries.
He would make corrections for that, and God, that is one crazy fucker.
Yeah. Yeah, Kaczynski was brilliant, though. How high was his IQ?
Oh, I don't
Man, I
know.
wish
It
I
was
could
it was
remember.
way the fuck up there. But have you ever known personally any actual genius level intelligence people?
I yeah, I've known a few,
Yeah,
I would say.
I have too, and let me tell you my reaction to that, to meeting, not just meeting, but getting to know some of those people is like, thank fucking God I'm not a genius.
Yeah,
You know,
yep.
I personally I feel that the ideal, the sweet spot on the IQ bell curve is just, part way down the right hand side where you have enough smarts to do what you want to do,
Hmm.
and to realize that you ain't the smartest guy in the room
Yeah, I mean, definitely.
without
Absolutely.
without all of the weirdness that comes with from being an actual genius.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's also why they tend to be more prone to depression, too,
Quite
with
possibly.
all that.
Quite
Yeah.
possibly.
Let's see. 19. Like I said, skipping a bit.
Kelly in the comments said, I'm sure Empress Wu was doing some killing on this day in history. That's very likely, in fact, probable, but we don't have any documentation on that. So she doesn't make the cut.
Yeah. Well, and also because they have to exercise a little bit of editorial discretion, or else we'd be doing this all night.
Yeah.
So, but let's see,
That's
May
a
25th,
that could
oh
be a whole
six.
a whole show unto itself.
Oh, yeah, it could. Definitely. But May 25th, 2006, Jeff Skilling and Ken Lay of Enron convicted of
Ah,
fraud and conspiracy. It's a whole
Yeah.
separate kind of monster there,
Right.
I'd say. Him
Yeah.
and Bernie Madoff.
But very likely also sociopaths. Almost
Oh,
certainly.
yeah,
Almost certainly.
absolutely. A lot of them do, I think, get into business, but obviously not many
Definitely.
get that far. Um, May 26th, 946 AD, King Edmund I of England is murdered by a thief after trying to defend himself from that thief while celebrating Mass on St. Augustine's Day.
Oh, sorry. What year?
946.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
That
That was one
was
I was curious if Kelly knew anything about.
Kelly. What do you know about this um,
King
pr-
Edmund I
prayer
of
murderer?
England. We'll wait, see if anything there. May 26, 1637, the Pequot War in Connecticut. 500 Pequots massacred by the English in their village.
What's a Pequot?
It was a tribe of Indians.
Right.
The Mashantucket Pequots, I believe they're one of the smallest of the ones who are still existing, of who have a somewhat sizable population. They're the smallest of them. Um, this next one was really interesting. May 26, 1647, a law in the colony of Massachusetts bans Catholic priests. First,
Why the fuck did they overturn that? It should have saved so much trouble.
the first offense was punishable by banishment. The second offense was punishable by death.
Death. Well, you know what? There's that kind of is equivalent to being burned for being a fucking witch, right?
Yeah, when you're looking at a Puritan colony, I would suspect so.
Yeah.
Um,
The well, in case people don't know, the most of the original settlements were Protestant.
yes, most were. In fact, I don't know if there was technically a Catholic one. I mean, sure, there were Catholic cities like Baltimore, but that wasn't, a whole settlement. Let's see, 1647 to 1883. It is Peter Kürten's birthday, born in Deutschland, May 26th, 1883.
Hmm.
Um, let's see,
I
send
got
one.
nothing on that one.
1977, George Willig is arrested for scaling the World Trade Center South Tower in 3.5 hours.
Whoa.
Crazy. I'm afraid of heights, so I would not even
That's
consider that.
that's nuts. Oh,
Yeah.
hey, have you seen the documentary called Man on Wire?
I have. I actually
That
talked to the
was
director
really
of that.
good. That was really good. Very well made. Very well done.
That won an Oscar, didn't it?
I don't
I'll have
know.
to look when I'm not flipping through this legal pad. I
That
think I
but
talked to the director of that,
yeah, that was
actually.
a fascinating documentary
Mm-hmm. I'll have
about
to
that
watch that.
about this crazy ass dude who does a high wire act between the twin towers
Yeah.
without a fucking rope. He's got nothing. It's just his balance. Jesus Christ. What kind of lunatic does that shit?
Oh, exactly. Man, that's nuts. I wouldn't be able to get up many floors than that. That would just scare the shit out of me. Um,
I don't have a fear of height. I have a fear of falling.
yeah, that's true. I have a fear of heights, but
I
May
mean,
26, 1998. SCOTUS rules, the Supreme Court rules, that cops in high speed chases are liable for injury only if, civilian injury that is,
mhm.
only if their, quote, actions shock the conscience.
What the fuck does that mean?
Yeah, good question.
That
Well,
was that
Judge,
was that was 28.
In 1998.
98, 98,
Yep.
98, 98. That makes
I'm
more
doing my
sense.
best to go in chronological order here,
Okay.
although some of it's out of chronological order. May 26, 2004, Terry Nichols is found guilty of 161 counts of murder for his part in the Oklahoma City bombing.
Good.
Yeah, lock those SOBs up, man.
Yep.
Oh,
Yep.
let's see.
That was 98, you said?
2004,
What?
actually. It seems like a pretty long break in which to try him.
It does. It
Maybe
does.
that's how long it took to get an investigation of that scope done. I'm not sure.
That just seems way late.
Oh, definitely. Let's see. Um, May 27th now. This is a shorter one. 1529. 30 Jews at Posing, Hungary are charged with blood ritual and burnt at the stake.
Oh, you know what that was? I'll tell you exact. I don't know fuck all about this event, but I can tell you exactly why this happened.
Yeah, what is a blood ritual in
It
that
doesn't
context?
matter. It doesn't matter. These guys were burned because some rich guy owed them money.
Probably. And I
And
was
and,
just
and that's
wondering
not
what the
and
charges
that's
were.
that's that's not a slur because
No.
because the Jews were the only people allowed to lend money with an interest rate.
Hmm.
It was considered
Usury.
as usury, and it was considered a sin, and that's why they allowed the Jews to do it because they weren't Catholic.
Just like it is in the Islamic world today. Why Muslim banks can't charge interest if you
Right.
go to the Middle East. But
So the Jews took over that operation, that that
hmm
demand. There was definitely a demand for it. So that's the reason that Jews got into banking is because the Catholics weren't allowed to do it.
it's interesting.
And,
Man,
and so that these poor guys who got burned were burned because some rich guy owed them a fuckload of money and couldn't repay it.
damn. Man, that's a common theme too. That's exactly the
Yeah.
reason they burnt the Knights Templar
Mm-hmm.
Grandmaster at the stake and all the rest
Exactly.
of them
Exactly.
being bankers. But moving on, all the way up to 1917, race riot in East St. Louis, which is my territory. It's about an hour and a half south of where I am. And it's probably partly underwater right now, too, with the flooding on the Mississippi. Um,
Yeah.
one black person was killed in that. Um, moving up to 1940, World War II, the Les Paradis massacre. The Germans shoot 99 Royal Norfolk Regiment soldiers after they wave the white flag.
Fucking Germans. Hey,
Oh,
there's a
yeah.
theme for tonight.
Yeah, it is, man. Damn. Fucking crowds, I tell you.
They they
Goddamn crowds.
they've got they've got plenty of unsavory history, let me tell you.
That they do, man. That's where most of my bloodline comes from, is Germany. But I don't know what that says. Um,
It doesn't have to say anything.
well, I'm also Norwegian and French, so.
Oh, I'm so sorry, but you don't have any control over that.
No, not at all. Um, let's see, 1942, Hitler orders the massacre of 10,000 Czechs.
Ah,
Um,
yeah.
let's see, and that was also the same day, May 27th, 1942, that Reinhard Heydrich, the man who orchestrated the
Mhm.
final solution,
Mhm.
was mortally wounded in Operation Anthropoid.
Yeah. You want to know? Here's a little trivia tidbit. So, 4 years ago, and it just shocks me to fucking death that this was 4 years ago. But 4 years ago, I played a part in an original one act play about the meeting where the final solution was voted on by the German High Command.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, I was in that play. It's very much equivalent to, um, shit, I can't remember the name of it. There's a movie out with, um, sorry, I've been sipping bourbon.
Oh, that's all right, man.
There's a real There's a really good movie
Mm,
on Netflix that covers the exact same meeting. And the reason that the meeting exists is because they minutes were taken, right? As
yeah.
because they're German, right?
Oh, absolutely.
And then but Heydrich ordered everybody to destroy their minutes and their notes and everything, and one guy didn't do it.
Really.
Yeah. So they have the exact minutes from this meeting that took place where they debated the final solution
Dang.
and decided on the gas chamber.
Wow. Yeah, all about efficiency, man. Those Germans.
Yeah.
I
Well,
mean, everything.
shall we talk about one in particular?
Oh, I had a couple more
Oh,
gonna get to.
you got some more?
Oh yeah, I got plenty. Like I said, I'll screen out the ones that aren't so interesting. Let's see. We were at 1942. 1981, May 27th, John Hinckley attempts suicide by a Tylenol overdose.
That doesn't work for fuck's sakes. Jesus.
Slowly kill you.
It might give you an ulcer.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it might give you jaundice in your liver,
Yeah.
but it slowly kill you. Man, he was
That is
messed up.
that is such a stupid way to try to go.
It is. In May 27th, 1993, the Mafia bombs the Uffizi Museum in Florence, killing 6. I didn't even know La
Mafia.
Cosa Nostra was still around over there in the 90s.
They
Dang.
haven't gone anywhere. Let me tell you.
Yeah.
They might not be in the headlines over here, but they haven't gone anywhere.
Well, um, May 28th, 1431, Joan of Arc accused of relapsing into heresy by donning male clothing, and this is what ultimately justified her burning
Her,
at the stake.
yeah, for wearing pants, or as they would call them over there, trousers.
Yep.
Jesus.
Hmm.
I
Uh,
mean, come on. Do you think she was? I have this thing where I'm not sure how many of these people who have visions are schizophrenic. It's hard to say, right?
yeah, I mean, it really is, or like temporal lobe epilepsy, too.
Yeah.
There's a really interesting book that I have sitting around here called, I think, is the spiritual something in the brain, that talks about that. It was a neurological study of the Carmelite nuns and their visions.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's a really good book. But let's
Interesting.
see. Skipping all the way down to 1830, the Indian Removal Act is signed, starting the Trail of Tears.
You know, one of the things people don't understand about life prior to, say, World War One or World War no, no, prior to 1990
Yep,
is that
definitely.
killing people was literally the way people solved problems.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, and I
It
have
really
some really
was.
interesting ways with that.
It really
Um,
was how every fucking person in every nation solved their problems was going out and killing people.
yeah.
It really
Oh, it skipped over one actually. 1802, May 28th. 400 rebellious slaves blow themselves up rather than submit to Napoleon.
What?
Yep.
Where
It
was
would have been.
this?
It was, I think, in France.
Slave. Napoleon had.
1802.
They had slaves, huh?
Yeah, they were behind the English in doing that, and well, hell, it wasn't outlawed in England until 1804. William Wilberforce. So, 1802, 1830, skipping down. Oh, 1942, 1800 Czech murdered by Nazis during their attack. Um,
Yeah, big surprise. Nazis murdered people.
oh, 1972, May 28th, the first break-ins at the DNC headquarters at the Watergate Hotel.
Oh, oh,
Hmm.
oh! The Watergate break-in.
Yep, the
The
first of them.
the tiny little pebble that turned into an avalanche.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, it skipped over another one. British Nazi propagandist William Joyce was arrested May 28, 1945, but not before he shot one of his captors in the knee.
Wow.
Yeah, that's one of the most painful spots to
having
get shot in.
having had three so far knee injuries, I can attest to the unpleasantness of that, and that didn't even include the fucking patella.
Yeah.
Ouch.
Um, May 28, 1998. Phil Hartman is killed by his wife in the murder-suicide at their home
Oh
in
my
L.A.
God. I forgot about that. So Phil Hartman was a TV personality. He had a talk show, right?
Oh, yeah. I don't think he had a talk show. He was famous, I thought, first for Saturday Night Live.
Okay.
He's a comedian, comedy guy.
Seemed like he
Um,
was on more regular though. I mean, outside of Saturday Night Live.
you wouldn't be thinking of what's his name, the gray-haired guy, would you?
Oh,
Who had the
yeah,
talk show?
yeah. Maybe I am. Phil.
Oh, what was his name?
What the fuck? I can
That's gonna
picture.
bug me. I can picture him too, but I can't think of his name.
God damn it.
It's so weird. Um, let's see, moving
Donahue.
on.
Donahue. No, I'm
Oh
not.
yeah, Phil Donahue. Yeah, that's who it is.
God,
That is who it is.
that guy's fucking bleeding heart was just everywhere, man. It was like an open vein.
Yep, most definitely. Let's see.
Well,
May 29th.
let's cut that off and dive into we got a lot of to cover with this guy.
Yeah, that's true, we do. Maybe we could
That-
save some of these
I
entries for
really like
next
this
week.
stuff though. Yeah, yeah. Well,
It
next week we'll
definitely.
have more stuff.
Yeah, oh, one more quick one.
Okay.
One quick entry from May 29th, 1987. This is when director John Landis, who did Animal House, was found innocent of involuntary manslaughter of actor Vic Morrow and two
Yeah.
child actors during the
The
filming of
helicopter
Twilight
crash.
Zone.
The
Yep,
helicopter crash.
yep.
That was a big deal. Um, uh, he wasn't guilty.
No. Oh, definitely. He
Yeah.
wasn't. He's an interesting guy, John Landis. But yeah, getting into Peter Kürten.
Let's do that.
Yep. Born, as we said, in 1883 in Germany.
Yeah.
Um, let's
I'm gonna
see.
put up the map of Germany
Oh, yeah, good idea.
with Dusseldorf marked because that's where a lot of this happened.
And his childhood was, man, is horrible. His father
Oh God.
would force him and his 12 siblings to
12.
watch 12.
12 siblings, so 13 total.
Yes. he would force all 13 of his children to watch as he had violent sex with his wife and beat her, basically senseless. And his father was ultimately, I think it was maybe 5 years after that started, where he was convicted of raping one of Kürten's older sisters.
Wow.
So, I mean, you have one hell of a start there for him, which is just horrible. And that's not to say there was a damn thing that should make you sympathetic to this guy, because it gets a lot sicker with what's going on.
All right.
Um,
So, all right. So this kid fucking grows up watching his mom being raped on a regular basis,
yeah,
and
yeah. Oh,
then his sister.
yep. And that Peter ultimately also tried raping that same sister. Kelly asks what year that was. That was the late 1800s into the early 1900s. I think it was 1902 when he ultimately left there permanently, because he did run away a lot from there, but he always came back until that last time. Um, and for people who don't know, this next part, it's another trigger warning. It's going to be pretty bad with
This
what
is
he did to animals. I think
yeah.
it's important
Th
to
this whole
understand that.
Jesus, this whole guy is a fucking trigger warning.
Yeah, yeah, but this especially. And before we get into that, maybe we should say what the McDonald triad is for
Oh
people who
yeah,
do
yeah,
not
yeah,
know.
yeah.
The
Good.
McDonald triad is more commonly known as the triad of sociopathy, the three behaviors that often make a sociopath.
Yeah.
And that is fire starting, cruelty to animals, and bedwetting past the age where it is socially permissible, I guess you could say. Usually into the teens,
Right.
bedwetting into the teens. That makes that. But
Whew, I got, I made it just under the wire.
yep,
Well, on that one.
maladjusted one. But the kraut came back the very next day. The kraut came back. We thought he was a goner. It's a sing song, definitely. And he was just horrible. But um, he ultimately graduated after he met a local dog catcher in 1902 to bestiality.
So,
And one of his, oh, go ahead.
the dog catcher wasn't just local. He was in the same building.
Yeah,
He was in the
yeah,
same.
that's a
That's
good thing
how
to
he
point
met.
out.
That's how he met him. Is they lived in the same building, and this dog catcher, in, you know, he provided um, Curtin with a way to express the cruelty to animals aspect of the triad.
He did. He definitely groomed Curtin towards that end.
Right.
But yeah, Patty's, yeah, definitely this is disgusting and it gets even worse. So I would
If
warn you again there.
if you want to, I understand if anybody wants to step away for a while and come back later, it becomes a little bit less awful later
Yeah,
on. But right now it's just going to be nasty. There's no way
yes.
to sugarcoat this.
No, not at all. But yeah, the dog catcher groomed him toward bestiality and raping
and
the animals.
and torturing them in
Oh
other
yeah,
ways.
he would often do both of those at the same time as well, which is very close to understand. There was one, Curtin, he talked quite a bit after he was ultimately caught about why he did the things he did. And he related one symbol or one symbolic act to the cops and their forensic shrinks about when he was walking by a lake and saw a swan, which he felt compelled to go up to this swan, slit its throat, drink from the blood, and consume it as an act of cannibalism. And to top it all off, he ejaculated spontaneously.
From a swan.
Yes, not
Now,
even from genital touching. It was from the psychological,
yeah,
from watching the thing bleed. He did that.
he didn't have to jerk off to do that.
No,
And that was
and
true. That was true of other incidents as well.
it does. It sets a pattern for Kürten, a larger pattern.
Now,
Um,
if you've never been toe to toe with a swan,
yeah,
those fuckers can get big.
yeah.
When I lived in Sweden, I had a buddy who was, I don't know, he was a little shorter than me, so maybe like 5'4", 5'5", and
Oh yeah.
we met up with a swan out on um, a breaker, the big rock walls out
Hmm.
into the water, and this swan was probably guarding a nest, and this idiot decided he wanted to go say hi at like 8 o'clock at night.
Well,
And I'm not
yeah.
kidding. I'm not kidding when that swan looked him dead in the eye. That's how
Yeah.
big these guys are. So this guy just walks
Wow.
up and just whoom, slices that fucker's throat.
Yeah. With the knife that he carried, and like we said, that definitely set a pattern that would continue with him, and that's something that the FBI has noticed often, beyond just the McDonald triad.
Mhm.
The reason for this animal cruelty with serial killers is it acts as a warm up for what they do.
Practice sessions. Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Exactly. Yeah, totally.
And not to mention the fact that animal cruelty and severe child abuse are correlated. So, and it's definitely a common thing. The child feels frustrated at the lack of freedom and how they're being treated, which is just sad. So they take it out on the only thing that is more vulnerable than they are,
Yeah. Yep.
that's around them.
Um,
So,
yeah, some people become bullies and that's enough for them, and other people, that's not enough.
yeah.
And
Yeah, I mean,
they have to, you know, um, they have to go beyond. And and
hmm
I've read accounts where one of the reasons that they do this,
hmm
when they're in this animal torture phase, is that they're trying to feel something, like anything, besides the rage at their personal injustice. And
yeah.
they want to have, they see everybody around them having normal emotions and they don't have those, and they're trying to create that environment to have those normal emotions and connections, and they and they're but they get kind of excited by, hurting animals,
Yeah.
and that's their substitution for human connection.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And that loss of control that they had, they feel they can exercise it with, again, that thing that's more vulnerable than they are. So it sets up a sick cycle. Um, but also in Curtin's childhood, when he was 9 years old, he killed two boys. They were
Oh,
all out on
he
a lake,
nine
and
years
the
old. 9 years old. Let's not rush past this too quickly.
yeah,
He's 9 years old. That's second grade in this country, I think,
yeah, and the way that Curtin related
or
it,
third grade
the
maybe.
the way that Curtin related it, he was out on a lake with two other kids, and he knew one of them couldn't swim, so he had the urge to push him out of their boat and hold him underwater. Just a spontaneous urge to do
Yeah,
that.
yeah. And the other boy tried to stop him.
Yeah, and Curtin ended up holding both their heads underwater. but the
And
police ultimately ruled it an accident.
but he confessed to it being a murder.
Yeah, his first kill, but
Yeah.
it's just horrible. I can't even fathom a child doing that. Um,
Uh, yeah, I'm afraid I can. I mean, not
yeah,
from personal experience, but yeah, I had a neighbor family that was all sociopaths
yeah,
from the mother on down, and the oldest boys were bad enough that the Green River Task Force looked into them for the Green River murders.
wow,
They at least
dang.
considered them.
Oh yeah, wow,
So like that. Their thing
right.
were they were more into knives than strangling, so they weren't considered. They didn't go very far in the investigation, but they were on the list.
Wow. Tying that into Kürten too, although he switched up his MO from knives from strangling to knives to scissors, a pair of scissors to a hammer. Um,
Yeah,
although, although he did that, I think a lot of his actions are best looked at through the lens of that blood from his hepatophilia, his sexual obsession with blood, which thank God that is a uncommon problem.
Kelly asked a good question, and she asked, was he just bragging about? Was it an accident and he just took credit for it and bragged about it? And I doubt that.
This
I
was one that he admitted to the cops along with the others when he was caught, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, yeah.
Or two,
Uh,
the shrinks that they employed. Because they studied the living hell out of this guy after they caught him. But we'll get into that and the interesting tie in to the Wisconsin Dells after
it,
we get
it
through.
it's not uncommon for serial killers to have a childhood first kill, a
Yeah,
childhood or adolescent first kill, where um, Bundy was suspected of kidnapping and killing his neighbor as a when he was like 12 or 14 or something like that.
yeah, I remember that. I
Uh,
mean, we were looking at
he,
how close the dump site was
yeah,
from
and
her house.
well, they never found her, but there were, definitely places he could have.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And that's not the only case, but definitely, it, when an opportunity arises for someone like this at an early age, they take it.
Oh yeah. And they do when they feel that nebulous to them impulse to do it. Man, man.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, and it just shows that there was nothing to prevent that impulse.
Yeah. No check on
There's no
the
check on
id,
it.
basically.
Right.
Yeah.
I have this
He,
idea, let's do it.
yeah. Man. But his next kill was right before he fled Dusseldorf in 1899. It was an 18-year-old who he strangled. And that was one, again, that he admitted to,
W-
but I guess they didn't have a way to independently verify it. No evidence.
Yeah, so he left Dusseldorf, right?
He fled to Mainz. And
I don't know where that is.
it's still in Germany. I'm just trying to think of what part. I think it's near Cologne, if
Okay.
I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong there, but I think it is near Cologne. But he fled to Mainz, and this gets into another interesting part of this monster's psychology was his pyrophilia.
Oh yeah, yeah.
There
Oops.
were a total of 15
He was
arsons in Mainz when he was there.
he was a constant active arsonist.
Yeah. In
He,
addition to being very criminally versatile too, with the petty crimes he would
right,
commit.
right, yeah, robberies and shit.
And that's another thing that isn't uncommon among serial killers. They are skilled in a lot of varieties of petty crime.
Yeah,
Um,
uh, yeah, and pyromania is 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 a common thread amongst many of them. Um, and it's
yeah,
not
it's again another plank of the McDonald triad too.
right. And
Mm-hmm.
it's not like me and my little brother, we like to play with fire, but
Mm-hmm.
in the fucking fireplace,
Oh
right? We weren't out there
yeah.
setting houses on fire and shit. We just wanted to understand how it worked.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. And um, getting into that criminal versatility idea and the arson also gets into his first verifiable kill that is independently verified with forensic evidence.
Yeah. And where was this? Who was this?
This was a 9-year-old in his new city. He broke into the tavern that her parents owned, and he strangled and cut her.
A fucking 9-year-old girl. I mean, I can't I can't even imagine the drive involved
Yeah.
to say, "Oh, not just, not this is not happenstance, right?" That's what I'm getting at. This is not happenstance.
Mm-hmm.
This is taking deliberate actions.
Oh, absolutely.
This is
Yeah, he very much did his crimes in a premeditated way, but he wouldn't be casing these victims. The victims were victims of opportunity, but the methods were premeditated, I think, for a lot of what he did.
right. But in this particular case, this is somebody that he knew about them, but he went to and sought them out or sought her out to kill her. And her sister didn't wake up.
No,
Her sister was
no,
like
she
in the same
didn't.
room and didn't wake up.
That was actually a later kill.
Oh, was that later? Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah, that was a later kill. But an interesting thing that happened here after he strangled and cut the victim was he accidentally left a handkerchief with his initials on it.
Oh, yes.
So he got sloppy with it. And
But it worked out though for him,
yeah,
right?
and the reason that it worked out for him was that the tavern owner's son had the same initials. So the police suspected him.
Right.
And
Well,
that it allowed,
and the tavern owner's son had made some threats against him, and so that
yeah.
it all fit.
Oh, yeah. I mean, definitely.
And and
There-
and and did, and he was convicted, I think, of that murder. The
yeah.
tavern owner's son.
Yeah, he was up until they caught.
Yeah.
Um, up until they caught him. And he said of this kill, this is a quote to again reinforce how sick Peter Kürten was. I heard the blood drip out on the floor. It spurted an arch over my head. And again, he orgasmed while watching this victim bleed out.
Jesus.
Yeah, there's that common theme. And that, it's too bad they didn't have DNA back then because this guy was an excreter, as they say. He left his biological calling card everywhere in a lot of the victims and on a lot of the victims. But, being 1913, there's nothing they could have done with that. It would have been science fiction to the
Yeah.
police with this.
Yeah.
And through so much of the Peter Kürten saga, they didn't even have a manhunt out for the vampire of Dusseldorf.
Well, and one of the reasons, coincidentally, was it coincident? I don't know, but because he changed up his MO and um, his victimology, um, a lot of the police refused to connect these murders.
Oh yeah. Maladjusted one says do a quickie on it on the MacDonald triad. Really, you need to know about that is again it's the triad of sociopathy that Long was a belief in. Um, it was honed in large part at Quantico after John Douglas and the rest of them did that massive study on
Right.
incarcerated killers and started building up the profiling there, the BAU, the Behavioral Analysis Unit.
What
So,
I mean, but with the caveat that most sociopaths aren't even criminals,
yeah,
but we're talking about the ones who are
yeah,
the ones who turn into murderers and serial killers.
yep, yeah. And let's see. Oh, 2 months after that victim is the one that you were actually thinking about, SK.
Okay.
The one be the one where she was asleep between her two sisters, literally between them, and Curtin strangled her to death and left in a hurry too. By the way,
Yeah.
yep, he didn't do much else. But this was getting into 1913 now, where he got 8 years in a German prison for various arsons. So the killing stopped for that amount of time.
Yeah. He got arrested for arsons and hopefully these days that kind of pattern well it still wouldn't get noticed because you see these murders take place and they can show up in the databases. You can see the pattern, and then if there's a break in them, you don't necessarily know why.
Yeah,
You have no idea why as a law enforcement person. You just know you can just see the effect of it, right?
yeah. Oh,
And and
definitely.
and that's with all the modern uh, data analysis that we have going on right now. You just say, "Oh, look, the pattern stopped. Wonder why?" And even then, it was most of
Hmm.
they didn't even see the pattern in those days with this guy,
No, no, and it doesn't help that, like we were saying, he varied it up
right?
later on. But yeah, when he got out of prison in 1921, he actually kind of kept the violence to a minimum. He married a older woman who was a former prostitute turned small business owner. Augusta was his wife's name. And they moved back to Dusseldorf, and coincidentally enough, a rash of rapes occurred
Shock.
when that happened. But man, he actually did not kill again until 1929.
Wow.
So
That's
an 8 year break.
that's quite a cooling off period.
It is. And that's comparable what to BTK.
And we don't have any way of knowing. It can only speculate, but how much did being married play into that?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think in looking at his later behavior with that maybe getting married made him a bit paranoid.
Oh, so it
And
wasn't
that's
it,
why.
it wasn't that he had a wife and he didn't need to do it. It was like I have a wife and she might notice.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think another proof of that is how the killings escalated beyond that time. Um, Actually, let's see, When he killed in 1929, he stabbed a local woman 25 times with scissors. She actually survived, but 2 weeks later, he attacked a different woman with scissors.
Scissors.
Yep, a
And,
pair of
and,
scissors.
and was the environment? Was this like out in the woods or in her home? Do we know
The,
what do we know about these two scissor attacks?
Kürten, I think this was in the city when he
Okay.
did the, Jazz Age, Weimar Republic, Germany,
Okay.
um, to
So
set that scene.
it was during a cabaret.
Yeah, it might have been. One thing that he did like to do with quite a bit of his victims is ask them out on a date, quote, date in quotes, and then do the deed. So it might have been that, and he would often take them to secluded spots after, their date was done.
Ah.
Um, so yeah, and let's see. It was after that, also in 1929, when he strangled and mutilated a 9-year-old girl. And this one, he actually returned to the scene and set her body on fire.
So he's mixing up his um,
His fetishes, his
his
paraphilias.
target demographic, I guess, to use a marketing term.
Yep.
Um, so he's jumping between children and adult women.
Yeah, and this is actually when he started to vary things up. Because 5 days after he killed that 9-year-old, he stabbed a 45-year-old man 20 times
A
with a pair of
man.
scissors.
So he included a man in there. I don't remember that.
Yeah,
Wow. So
yeah. So,
this is it makes you wonder. I mean, granted, this guy doesn't have very good impulse control, but
oh, not at all.
if he did this, I mean, if he had planned this out, it would be a brilliant way to throw the police off the trail by mixing things up to this degree. But I don't think he did that. I don't think he had that kind of a thought.
Oh no, not at all. Not at all with that. There was extensive post-mortem mutilation during these as well. Still no manhunt, and still no pattern that the cops saw.
Right.
And let's see,
Yeah,
that was February.
because
Yeah,
they would see a 9-year-old stabbed and a man stabbed and say these are not the same person doing this.
yeah. Oh, most definitely. And to answer maladjusted one's question there again, it's not that he was involuntarily mixing up his MO. He did it with a lot of conscious forethought. It was around this time, again, after he got married, that he started becoming more paranoid that he was going to get caught. So he thought, I'm going to throw a red herring out for the cops, make their jobs harder.
Right. So like one time he comes home with blood on his clothes and he's really worried his wife's gonna notice.
Yeah, exactly. And there might have been some truth to that. I don't know.
Yeah.
But um, yeah, and with these kills from this point on, there's a lot more post-mortem mutilation of the bodies, which maybe he was taking out some of that paranoid energy in that form. I don't know.
Yeah.
Um, that last kill was in February of 1929, and he killed again in August of 29. And that was one again where he strangled, raped, and stabbed. And this one he toyed with. It was slow, methodical torture over the course of about an hour, which was a long time for him to be at a scene. Um, and
Yeah.
this,
Yeah.
mm,
How long did he keep her?
1 hour.
Oh, that's really long for him. I
Yeah.
mean, this is not Fred and Rose West, who would keep people in their basement for weeks. This is a guy who would just slash people. So an hour is a really long time for this guy.
Yeah, most definitely. And another interesting thing he did with this one, he buried her body in a cornfield
Hmm.
and sent an anonymous letter to the cops about where to find her.
Why would he do that?
I wonder if that doesn't get into his later behavior, where he's kind of fighting against himself with his impulses
Mm.
that we actually talked about before we came on the air. Um, so, but he visited her grave several times too, and he told the police, "I was improving it." And you still don't know what that means, but of course we can speculate plenty. So, and it's interesting. I think the psychology for that, because that's another common thing that killers do, revisit the scene,
Yes. Bundy
isn't,
Bundy was
yeah.
known for that, for example.
Oh, yeah. He definitely was. Yeah, I think it's almost similar to why they take trophies
Right.
to relive, what they view as their former glory. So,
Well, I guess, in if we were to scale this back to a more a more socially acceptable behaviors, this would be like some horn dog keeping panties of the women he'd had sex with.
yeah,
Um,
most definitely.
it's
That's,
it's in that vein, but way out of scale.
oh, yeah. Um, and another thing with that, it just, what you said just reminded me of it. Hypersexuality is another trait of serial killers and of abuse victims who were abused as children, tend to be very hypersexual, like Kürten was. Um, in August of 1929, he killed a 18-year-old and a 37-year-old, woman and man. And these were, rushed.
Yeah.
And and 3 days after that, he killed with a knife a 14-year-old and a 5-year-old that he met at a carnival that was going on. Um, e- Evidently, the way he did it, his MO here was winning the girl's trust and then
Yeah.
sending the 14-year-old to um, get cigarettes for him.
Separating them.
Yeah. And another trigger warning here, because this is where it again gets really sick. The 5-year-old, literally what he did to kill her was pick her up by her neck far off the ground.
Jeez.
Yeah, it's just sick. Um, Strangled her, he slit her throat, and the 5-year-old unfortunately took longer to die than the 14-year-old. The 14-year-old he actually strangled and then disemboweled with his knife.
This guy, man.
Yeah,
That's just no.
yeah,
This it's just there's no rhyme or reason to this. I mean, you know, Ed Gein. You know, Ed Gein did some sick fucking shit, but you can almost track his behaviors back to um, you know, his environment,
yeah.
right?
Oh,
And
yeah,
and the
definitely.
and the things that he endured growing up and in his life, and you can connect the dots there. But this fucker is like all over the map.
He really is. It's kind of the definition of a disorganized killer, with
Oh,
the
there you go.
disorganized organized dichotomy in this. And to answer maladjusted one's question, yes, I am implying he was spunking on her grave.
Yeah. Yes.
That's how sick this guy is.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Jesus.
yeah. You know, another interesting thing here, a weird little tidbit about his personality. Kürten would actually apologize to his victim if he orgasmed while he was strangling her
Jesus Christ.
versus the blood. He would apologize as literally as he's raping and killing her.
As if
Um,
they were wanting him to take longer. I don't know. That's just weird.
yeah, it is definitely
Like
weird.
I'm sorry you're not enjoying this. Killing you. I'm sorry you're not enjoying me killing you more.
Yeah, and it's just so weird. He had some canned cliche about love was his reason for saying that. It was the quote right after it. But
You know. Okay, so this is a fairly common theme among serial killers. So sociopaths are incapable of emotional connection to other human beings, or
by definition, yep.
by definition. But they see normal people out there falling in love and having relationships and making these bonds that sometimes
Hmm.
last for decades, and they are envious of that.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
I think they can rationalize the emotion of envy to some degree. You know, that they get pissed when they don't have that.
right, and they try oftentimes to mimic that in their
Yep.
lives, um, but they really don't know how, right?
No. No,
They,
they're incapable.
they can only see what they see, right? So I mean, even you know, even a BTK or a Bundy or a Green River Killer type, you know, they can emulate, they can mimic behaviors, but they can't mimic emotions.
No. No, they
And
can't.
right. So
That's why they literally practice it in front of a mirror, some of
yeah,
them.
exactly right. And so the problem is that even if they grow up in a happy, good family, they don't see all of the behaviors. They only see the
No.
behaviors as a child. They only see the behaviors that are presented to them as kids in public, in the family environment. They don't see all of the behaviors. So they are missing significant pieces to the puzzle as far as mimicking goes.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, definitely. Let's see. Um, I was just looking through my notes. I need to organize those a bit better. It's just not in my DNA. Uh, let's see. When they moved back to Dusseldorf, there was actually another series of fires. Surprise, surprise. And to top it all off again, I don't know if we could. People maybe are thinking that the amorality on parade here can't be topped, but it can with this. Curtin admitted to a fantasy about watching and hearing the homeless population of Dusseldorf burn.
Oh, yeah, that's why you burned that place down.
Hmm. And this gets into another interesting psychological concept with all that, and that is the dark triad,
Ah, thank you for bringing that up.
as opposed to the McDonald triad.
And what's the difference between the dark triad and the McDonald triad?
As we said, the McDonald triad has bedwetting, cruelty to animals, and,
And pyromania.
and pyromania, yeah, as its components to make a serial killer. It in the clinical definition of a lust murderer or serial killer, they have to meet two of those,
Mm-hmm.
or they usually meet two of those. But the dark triad is composed of psychopathy,
Yeah.
narcissism,
Yeah.
and Machiavellianism,
Hmm.
which defining the Machiavellianism for people, it is literally just manipulation. They're skilled at manipulating and they almost compulsively manipulate people. They just can't help it.
That how is that? Just to be clear, how is that different from narcissism? Because that seems very closely related.
It is, but to me, when you get into narcissism, it is very much individually focused. It can affect, this your surroundings and your sociability, but it's not necessarily about an action towards those same things. Whereas Machiavellianism, by definition, is about an action
Okay.
against those against your people in your social circle or people you meet. But
Okay. So
that's one thing.
it's the manipulation
Yeah,
for personal gain, right?
yeah. That's the way that I would think of it. Whereas narcissism is just a quality.
Okay.
It's not an action inherently.
So, like a lot of people, let's say on social media, are very narcissistic. They want a lot of attention, but they're not necessarily into manipulating other people
Yeah,
to that end.
yeah, yeah. They're not necessarily skilled at it, or it's something that they like to do.
Right. Like
Um,
I see people making posts on Facebook, for example, that are desperately trying to get attention pulled to themselves. But
yeah,
they're not working the behind the scenes trying to manipulate people to pay attention to them.
right,
That's what
right. That's
marketers.
a good
That's
way of
what
thinking about it.
some marketers. That's what they do.
Yeah, they definitely, we definitely do.
Yeah.
I can say that. Um, but and that we definitely sell narcissism as the product, marketers.
Yeah.
It's what I do for a day job, in case people were
Oh
wondering.
no. So hey,
So,
do you want to get into this film shit before things move too far along?
um,
Eh, The movie?
yeah, I suppose we could do that.
I mean, it's up to you. Do you want to do? I mean, we can mention it or we can show it. It's up. What are you feeling like right now?
Well, the entire clip that we have is about 14 minutes. So that'd be up to you time wise if we want to show that.
Time wise, that's a little bit much. We should have
Mm-hmm.
been more cognizant of that. Maybe let's just talk about it.
Yeah. Um, Peter Kürten, well, to get into the end of it, actually, he raped and killed two separate servants when they moved back to Dusseldorf. From that, he was arrested on a vice crime, seduction of those same maids. So they had him, and they weren't looking at him for the killings yet, but it slowly turned into that. His luck slowly ran out. So he did something that was very out of character. He confessed everything to his wife.
Wow.
Yeah,
That is so rare. I can't think of another example.
yeah,
I mean,
it definitely can.
even a Bundy who was totally narcissistic, he denied until it was like, even after his conviction, he was denying. It wasn't until his execution was imminent that he confessed, but only to investigators,
Yeah,
not to the people in his life, not to Elizabeth and Carol Ann.
yeah, not not to them at all. Uh, maladjusted one. He's flipping us the double bird in that photo. He's actually flipping it to himself. He's in front of a mirror. So, but yeah, they caught him in 1931. He was executed by the guillotine. And an interesting quote
Gui-
he had with that.
the Germans had the guillotine, huh?
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, he was one of the last ones executed on that in that country. But before he was executed, he asked the shrink, this is a quote, "After my head has been chopped off, will I still be able to hear, at least for a moment, the sound of my blood gushing from my neck? That would be the
Jesus.
pleasure to end all pleasures."
Jesus.
Yeah, I'm not totally sure what the guy's answer was to that, but yeah,
Can, could you imagine being asked that question?
well, not at all, but can we pull up the picture of his head?
Yeah, absolutely.
We need to get into that, and then we can end it on him.
I have two pictures. Here's one.
Yeah,
This
let's
is
do that.
this is his actual head that
Yeah,
has been bisected.
and it is actually in the Wisconsin Dells right now, in the possession of Ripley's Believe It
Believe
or
it or not.
Not.
Yeah.
And the way that it got there was a European guy who immigrated to the United States. I can't remember his name, but he collected all sorts of this macabre shit. Yeah, shrunken heads, torture devices. I was reading in one source that his first thing that he got towards that was thumb screws at age 26. So he brought it to the United States, and Ripley's purchased the head from him.
Oh.
So if you're ever vacationing in the Dells, go to their museum and you can see it. That is his actual head, mummified.
So who bisected the head? Was this the coroner?
I would imagine it was the coroner with that, because before the guy got possession of his head, the guy I was talking about, they
Yeah.
studied the hell out of his brain.
I can
And it,
imagine. I can imagine that people would want to know if you could see evil.
yeah,
I
yeah,
think. I think.
it's,
I think that's a question that has plagued humanity from like day two. Is
yeah.
can you see this in the brain?
And they didn't find a freaking thing wrong or abnormal with his brain. Not a damn thing.
Well, no, because it's not. I mean, even if you hold with the, um, the uh, the belief that it's more of an organic thing, nature versus nurture, doesn't mean you can
Hmm.
see it.
Oh, yeah. No, definitely not. And they would have had no idea about like the evidence on the enlarged pituitary gland being a possibility.
Or the lower brain matter mass in the amygdala.
Yeah, that too. Two things that have been correlated with
Yeah,
psychopathy.
right.
um, Kelly asks if the guillotine chopped him through the neck or through the actual face. It was a clean cut through his neck. The bisection that you're seeing on the screen now was medical people who did that.
Yeah, it's far too clean for a guillotine.
Yeah, I didn't know they put him in sideways, if that were the case. But yeah,
I got a the other picture that shows the display at the Believe It or Not museum.
yeah. Can we pull that one up?
It's coming up now.
Oh man, my stupid connection must be slow. So, but yeah, there's that. So if you're ever vacationing in the Dells, you can go see the mind of the devil incarnate.
Yeah, I gotta say, of all the people we've talked about, this guy. I mean, we've talked about some real fucking monsters, serious shit. And
Yeah.
this guy is like in a class by himself almost.
Oh, I definitely agree. And I think a large part of that why we judge him that way, or why we classify him that way, might be what he did to children and animals,
Yeah,
that he targeted that.
that's very true. That's very true because, you know, it is human nature to want to protect children because
Yeah.
that's the future of the race
Oh,
of the
exactly.
that's our genetic future.
Yeah. Yeah, and it gets back to the other thing we were talking about on before we were on the air. Dawkins' idea of the selfish gene, that it's still in your self-interest to protect a child,
Yeah,
even if they're not related to you
abs-
genetically.
absolutely. We have countless examples of strangers throwing themselves into life-threatening situations to change to rescue children and at the peril of their own lives.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
this happens all the time because we are. I yeah, I agree. I agree. Genetically programmed um, to preserve and protect all children.
Yeah, yeah. You know that is a fantastic book if people haven't read it. The
Say that.
selfish,
Say that again. Yeah.
yeah, the selfish gene by Richard Dawkins. Great book, but um, getting into the movie stuff real fast with that. Director Fritz Lang made a really interesting movie where Peter Kürten inspired a lot of the source material. It's a movie where Peter Lorre of Maltese Falcon fame plays the killer in a city, much like Dusseldorf at the time. Um, it's really a great movie. M is the name of it, and I will find the YouTube link to watch it. As it's in the public domain, you can watch it for free.
Cool.
It, it was actually Lang's first talking picture. I'll be real quick here and bring that up. Yeah, maybe we could show that next week when I whittle down a better scene for us.
Okay.
We were going to show a part of the movie on the show tonight. Man, if it's stupid Control V works. Here we go. That YouTube link is M.
Thank you for that.
Now, maladjusted one, all these resources we're mentioning are free anyway. We never mean to distract anybody in the audience from going in, evaluating the sources we mentioned for yourself. We aren't here to think for you, unfortunately.
No, I mean, of all the people, we are the two humans on Earth least likely to want to think for other people.
Yeah, I would say so. Most definitely.
We're cool with providing information, but we are not so hot on doing your thinking for you.
Yeah, I mean, we will definitely express our opinion, but it is not to be construed as thought for anybody.
Right.
So, I think we kind of beat the hell out of the devil in the flesh.
Man, this guy was just kind of gut wrenching in
Yeah,
a lot of ways.
absolutely horrible, man.
You
Like I
know,
said, one of the weirdest.
very strange man, very strange man. And I guess, you know, if we're gonna be appreciative of anything, it's that there aren't more like this guy.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, I mean,
Unless,
it could be worse, right?
Yeah, it definitely could. And I guess we should take a little bit of relief in the idea that it wasn't his smarts that kept him from being caught over his 16-year killing period. It was the cops not knowing, where to look or really
Right.
anything about this sort of thing.
True.
Yep.
True. Yeah. Further dispelling the myth of the criminal genius.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
All right, guys. I think we have had enough of this fucking German guy.
Yeah, go
I mean,
back to your homes and the people you love and watch a comedy after
yeah,
this.
appreciate the beauty that is the human connection.
Yeah. And we hope, I think, as part of this show that knowing a bit about the evil helps you appreciate the good better in a better
Absolutely,
way.
absolutely. Um, the dark cannot dispel the light. Only the light can dispel the dark. Because, photons, fuck. That's how science
Oh,
works.
absolutely.
The dark is an absence of photons. So create photons in your life, man. Have light and beauty and love.
Yeah, most definitely. It's a great one, great quote to sign off on.
All right. Good night, everybody. Thanks for
Good
tuning
night.
in.
Thank you.